Money FM 89.3, the best of Saturday mornings. Saturday morning sit down.
Welcome back to the Saturday Morning Sit Down. Foreigners and others are faking their credentials to land a job in Singapore. That has been a trend for over a decade now. In the studio with us is Fiona, the Director of Government Checks at a company called Veremark. They work with the Ministry of Manpower to help catch foreigners with fake certs and documents and weed them out, keep them off of our sunny island. And she is in the studio now to chat with us about it. Hey, Fiona, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How many bad people have you caught? How many have you personally caught and escorted off the island? Just kidding.
I haven't escorted anyone, but I've caught a couple of folks who tried to fake their degrees for sure.
Yeah, right. How big of an issue is this? And we know that the Singapore government requires certain certs to get a work visa here. So give us a little bit of background on that whole scenario.
So I think it's been a rampant issue for longer than a decade, probably. But it's just that how big it is, we don't know because there's a lot of people who don't get caught and don't get screened. But for the ones who do get checked, we don't really see too high a percentage, which is good because if you're always hiring fraudulent folks, then there's something wrong with your hiring process.
Right.
But I would say the numbers are still there. And the problem is when these people get into positions or offices where they get access to data or confidential information, then that's where the trouble begins.
Okay, so you're a director of government checks at Veremark. Is that how you say it? What do you actually do? What is your day-to-day role? What is your responsibility?
So there are two parts. One part would be investigating the actual case. So clients would come to us and we'll be asked to do a background check on the person. So we would go to the school. So anyone can say, for instance, I've got a degree at Harvard. So we would go to Harvard and ask, is it true that so-and-so has actually gotten this degree in this specialization from you in this period? Then Harvard would authenticate it, and then we'll get the results done and send it to the person where they would then give it to MOM.
A follow-up question. Who are the clients who come to you? Is it the people doing the hiring or is it MOM themselves? Who usually comes to you and say, we want this certificate checked?
It could be anyone. So it could be the candidate himself, it could be the employer, or it could be the government.
Right, because that would raise the question, doesn't the Ministry of Manpower do it themselves, I would assume, or is it because B, there are so many cases now that there's too much workload, they have to outsource?
I think it would be more B. There's too many foreigners getting approved on a monthly basis even, and that's just too much work for the ministry to go around all over the world trying to check with all the different institutions. We're not also just talking about education check. We have also elements such as your employment history. You could lie that you were the ex-assistant director at Meta and you could get away with it if no checks are being done.
Well, I was. I was.
in his dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
How long does it actually take? Let's say you took the example of a university anywhere in the West, and I say I've got a degree from there. How long does it take you to actually get in touch with them, verify that? Is it like a couple of hours? Is it days? What does that look like?
It really depends. So universities who have digitalized it could be as quick as a couple of minutes. But there are many who are unfortunately manual. And I guess the problem comes when the candidate that we're screening is someone older, typically in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, or sometimes even in their 30s. The schools may not have digitalized yet because that was not their era. And then there's also the issue of what if the school had closed down? So we had a very interesting case. This guy was the general manager, a pretty high position in a local firm. And he's done great work in all his time in Singapore. I think he spent probably like 10 to 15 years here. And then come first, the policy law kicked in. And this guy did not have his certificates to prove, but he swore that it was authentic. Of course, everyone would say that. No one would tell you that they're lying. But in this case, the HR stood very firmly that it is real and we know the quality of his work. So we spoke to them and we realized that the school had shut down. And previously, the school was even sold to another private organization. So there was a lot of mess on the business front. Where do the records sit? Where do we go? We knock on every single door that we could find. That case took us 2 months.
Wow.
But that satisfaction when we gave them the report that said authenticated, and in fact, we gave them a certificate that he could use not just for the Singapore government, but other governments too, if you were ever to go
that
to
was
any
good.
other country.
So you have some happy endings.
Yes,
actually.
we do.
And just for our listeners' benefit, just remind us what COMPASS is, what it means.
So COMPASS stands for the Ministry of Manpower's law. The full name is Complementary Assessment Framework, whereby all foreigners need to pass at least 40 points under it to get your employment pass or get renewed for your EP.
Right.
And one of those components would be your education. There's also other components such as salary, but I think it's just easier for employers to do a background check for less than $100 than to go and increase someone's salary, which is a long-term commitment.
Yeah. We're talking with Fiona Scher, Director of Government Checks at Veremark. Fiona, is it only for foreigners, or does this apply to some other people that might be in Singapore that are trying to get a job at a company that need to have their background verified as well?
Right now, COMPASS only applies for foreigners under an employment pass.
Okay.
But we won't be surprised if that later rolls out to more. And if you ask me, this is my personal stance, not my company's stance. My personal stance is that I think locals should be checked too, because we have locals going abroad as well. And there was this case about someone, she was a local, who got several jobs with a fake degree. And she's in Singapore. She got jobs at Disney, Marshall Cavendish, and lots of big name firms. She just got away with it.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that story, and two of the companies she worked for, I've also worked for.
Will you check?
Oh dear, that's another
Maybe
story.
you should be. Yeah.
But what I'm interested in, you sent me a link to that YouTube. There's a YouTube clip where it teaches people how to make fake certificates. It was extraordinary stuff. So, and I think you were suggesting that you're targeting those folks as well, as if you're going after the source, that you're going after the people doing the teaching of the cheating, if that makes sense. Is that something you look at your company?
So the government would be the one clamping down on all these fake institutions and degree mills. Our job is to expose them when we get someone who claims to be from one of those institutions.
And just explain what they do.
So they either teach you how, or you could pay them a very nominal sum, and they would create a fake certificate for you. In fact, I think that business is not going to be around for long, because today you could probably ask
Just
AI.
do your own, yeah.
Yeah, you could just ask ChatGPT to give me a Harvard degree, put in these details, and I wouldn't be surprised if the AI is advanced enough to give you one that looks genuine.
Sure.
And there's been cases, there was this other case in the news about a preschool principal who used Microsoft Paint
Oh,
and successfully cheated her employers and the authorities.
oh my gosh.
Microsoft
Paint. Really?
Oh my word.
Couldn't afford the upgraded package, the graphics package for Adobe or something, huh?
Jeez.
Fiona, a question about, so increasingly on LinkedIn, for example, in people's profile, they're saying, Harvard degree, and then you look down and it's actually, they attended a 1-week
conference
online, thing, or went to a conference or something like that. And they say now they studied at Harvard, right? In quotes. Is that the kind of thing? Is that legitimate in any way? I mean, maybe they did actually attend a conference or a week-long course online and they got a certificate from it, but I mean, it's not really what we're expecting from a Harvard degree.
Yeah.
Where does Veremark check on those sorts of things?
So we don't judge. We simply verify and investigate if it's real. So the judgment then lies on the employer, or we're looking at MOM in this case. That certification would not count. So a degree is a degree. And interestingly, some degrees in certain countries are not considered the UK equivalent of a degree. So we've had many cases where that person thought and argued with us that it's a degree equivalent and they should get the points. But we were trying to explain to them that it's not our call. It's actually the government's mandate on what constitutes a UK degree equivalent. And unfortunately, you come from a system or a period where that did not meet the qualifications.
Yeah. We have lots of business owners, SMEs in particular, listening to our show, who may not be able to have these extensive investigations. What are some of the telltale signs they could look for, or tips or clues in judging whether this person's certificates, documentation is correct or not? What could they look for?
It's really hard. I would say it's not as extensive as they might think. In fact, at my firm, it costs just about $100 to do it.
Oh, wow.
And it's easier than trying to look up for the signs or find the other telltale issues that could signal the person is a fraud. But there are some. right? Like, for instance, I think the problem now is a lot of companies and employers simply look at what the candidates scan, and then they get the candidate to bring the original, and they just look at it. But
Right.
if you use Microsoft Paint, you're going to create,
Apparently,
right?
yeah.
And that's the problem with the American who was caught in Singapore previously, who got access to the HIV database. He got in, and he was a polytechnic lecturer because the polytechnic used that verification method.
I remember that.
And
yeah.
hired him, yeah. And that was a major case, right? So it's really hard to spot with your blind eye. There could be some signs such as the person doesn't answer the questions well, but hey, that guy aced his interview. So it's super tough to tell. In fact, even for us, I remember one case, it was from an Indian university where the cert looked so legitimate, I couldn't tell. And then my ops team told me, Fiona, zoom in. I said, I already did. I said, zoom in 30 times. And I zoomed in, and that was when I realized the only telltale sign in that certificate was that the name was pixelated. But every other part was not. I had to zoom in 30 times.
That's clever.
Wow.
You couldn't
clever.
tell.
How many on your team, on your staff, helping you with this?
Right now in Veremark, we're slightly around 10 people doing this full time.
And then, just there's constantly work coming in?
There's lots of cases coming in, and there's a lot of interesting stories. If you have time, I'll be happy to share another one that
Please,
took us by
go for
surprise.
it. Yeah.
So there was one where the candidate went to the extreme. He gave us his certificate as well as a notarized public in China and another one in Singapore by a Singapore lawyer. Sounds good,
Both
right?
notarized.
Yes.
Two
so
different
notarized
countries.
in China, notarized in Singapore, and his China certificate.
That's
All
pretty
right?
good, right?
Pretty good, right? We thought. But we were trained well enough to know that that's a little bit too much. Is he trying to hide something? So we investigated. First telltale sign, the China Notary Public said they had never done this document. The school said they couldn't find a record. But here's the catch. The Singapore Notary Public, the lawyer, said that, yeah, we attested it. And then we asked, yeah, but did you verify that it is real? And he said, we attested it. Look at the shop, look at the number. It's by our firm. I wrote into him then, and I said, so, dear sir, we have evidence from the school that this certificate was fraudulent. They never had this student in their campus. So when you attested it, did you do this check, or were you simply signing off?
Wow.
He ghosted me.
Wow. That's not a complimentary look at the Singapore legal
I
profession,
can't
is
name
it?
the law firm,
Of
but it
course
really
not.
opened up our eyes because in the past we used to have employers saying, "Oh, they got notarized by a lawyer, a local lawyer, or a lawyer in their country," and this is what the lawyers do. Or not everyone, but not all lawyers would check.
Yeah.
They simply pay us a sum, stamp, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
You said something earlier about AI. It's an obvious question, I suppose. That's going to make your job harder, isn't it? It's going to get harder and harder to spot the frauds, the fake certificates. Are you developing software, or are you working with tech that helps you spot the frauds? I mean, how are you dealing with the threat
So
of AI?
the tech is going to always be slower than AI developments, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But what we can do is to keep checking, and we're trying to work with different institutions as well to make it faster, to digitalize more.
Yeah.
One great piece of work that our government has done, so you don't really have to check locals, because if the locals graduated from a local university, you can use something called open certs. Yeah, so just drag and drop, and it's instant, it's on the blockchain, you get results. You don't have to pay for an investigation.
Yeah.
But if they study anywhere else, because not every school in Singapore is on open certs, and not the whole world is on a system like that. So
Yeah.
that's the gaps that we need to fill. But we're also working towards a very pass, which is a passport that someone can carry around to say that I've been verified before. So you don't have to check my education again. That's still in the works.
One of the common things... Oh, sorry, Glenn.
I was going to say, couldn't they fake that?
They could, but not when it's on our technology, because we have the blockchain to verify. It lies on
Got
the
it,
blockchain. So you
got
need
it.
two keys to make sure that aligns.
Got it, yeah.
One of the common things that I've seen on social media and elsewhere is when families employ other family members from other countries, the checks are not as stringent because it's uncle employing uncle or whatever it is. Do you look at those family businesses, if they're sort of international family business? Do you see? How do you look for those issues there?
So that's very much in Asia what we call related party transactions, right?
Right.
We don't get involved if the company or the client doesn't want to get involved.
Okay.
So if you hire your aunt or uncle and you don't care about their qualification, you don't care if they got a fake degree, then it's not on us to say that you should care.
But from a legal point of view, the MOM would need to validate, right?
Yeah, so if you want to use your company to hire your uncle from overseas and give them an e-pass, then you have to go through us.
Yeah. So it comes into play when there's a visa involved, basically an MOM.
Exactly,
visa.
exactly.
Yeah. What are the hardest, are there countries that are harder to verify, like to get into, I don't know, maybe something in Europe or something in Asia or whatever? Are there certain countries that it's just really hard they don't have the systems in place, or they aren't open or willing to talk to you?
That's a great question. So it could be any country in the world. We find some countries like Singapore to be super efficient, so they come back really quickly. Malaysia is also pretty fast, I think, because of the number of Malaysians who do work in Singapore. But in countries, I'll give China or India as an example. China is great. They have actually digitalized and they have the system called the CHSI, somewhat like our open certs. But the problem comes if your certificate is not in there. So it could be legitimate, but it's not in there. Then you'll have to go manually to the university and find it, and that's going to take a long time. In India, a lot of the cases are pretty manual. So we would literally sometimes have to get one of our India staff, go down to the school, sit there, fill up the forms, get it chopped, and then they'll say, we'll mail you the results. Say, no, can we stay and collect the results? No, we will mail to you the results. Wow. So it takes time. And that's where these different countries and different schools even, with their different processes, will affect how long it takes for us to complete the case.
Fascinating. I suppose this is a very sensitive question. Are there particular countries that stand out that you, how can I put this, that have more cases, shall we say, more fraudulent cases, or is it really across the board?
I would say it can be from anyone. Like, even tomorrow, anyone could just come out and say, I have a master's degree from NUS. But they wouldn't be able to get away with it, because if the employer or the government uses open certs, they can find that out. But if you use a school that has closed down, or there was one case of an Indian university where 1 year they had a fire in the student records room. It was hilarious because the year after, so many people claimed that they graduated from that school. I'm not kidding.
See, I might give them a job, because just for the ingenuity, the street smarts. So they're looking for universities that have shut down, had fires. That's actually quite smart.
That's actually very smart.
I had an even better case. There was this candidate from India. I think they're sometimes so smart. He created a verification portal that looked like the school's exact portal. So he was telling us, you used the wrong source. This is the correct source of my school. So he sent us there. We created his name and it came out. The actual one didn't. And then I was telling my team, if I'm the employer, I would hire this guy because he created exactly the same thing in such a short period of time.
It's not politically correct. I know it's not, but I'd give that guy the job in Singapore. The lengths he is going to set up a new life in Singapore.
We're always saying we need innovation here, right?
I would give that guy the visa on principle.
Awesome. Fiona, we're going to leave it there. We are going to come back and talk to you in a few minutes about something completely different. But for now, Fiona Scher, Director of Government Checks at Veremark. Thanks for being with us today on Money FM.
Thanks for having me.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.